Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our weekly climate dispatch. I'm Johanna Miller, Vermont Natural Resources Council, joined here by my colleague, Shelden Goodwin of Vermont Conservation Voters, and excitingly joined by two incredible environmental and climate justice champions, longtime champ Senator Kesha Ram Hinsdale and Elena Mihaly of the Conservation Law Foundation to share with you and really celebrate, mark a milestone of passage today of S.148, the Environmental Justice Bill out of the Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee. Huge news, a fundamental foot forward. This is a really exciting opportunity. And before I turn it over to Senator Ram Hinsdale, I also just want to note that another big piece of climate legislation moved out of House Energy and Technology, the Clean Heat Standard on a 7-2 vote yesterday. The Clean Heat Standard, which could be, if crafted and well designed, the most significant and transformative climate policy in the heating space that Vermont has enacted. So that's exciting. We shared that update with you next week. That bill goes to House Appropriations now. So there's more work to do there. We'll keep you abreast of that. But really importantly today, we really just want to celebrate and hear from Senator Ram Hinsdale in particular, who has been working for 15 years to make this moment happen. We still have more work to do. Shelden's going to give you a sense of that, but Senator Ram Hinsdale, tell us what this means to you and what this means to Vermont. Thank you.
Well, yes, I mean, thank you so much. First, I just feel like doing a happy dance. I'm just so excited that this bill has finally passed. It's truly been my life's work. And I'm trying to think of so many people whose stories and names have been lost to time, who have worked to advance environmental justice in the country, in rural communities, and particularly in Vermont. We just celebrated the 30th anniversary of the National People of Color Environmental Summit. That was a national effort to recognize that so many people who consider themselves environmentalists are left out of the environmental movement. People of color, people who are identified as low income, people on the margins, in many ways have advanced and created the environmental movement. I've said at VNRC gatherings before that Harriet Tubman and Sacagawea were probably two of our greatest environmentalists in history. So this bill is one more step to recognize, particularly in a rural state, that everyone cares about their experience with the environment. Everyone deserves a healthy community, a healthy home, the ability to have their kids play in a safe and healthy place and drink clean water and breathe clean air. And so this is truly a lens by which to look at all environmental policy and protections and think about who's often most left behind. I won't go too deep into the history here in Vermont, but in 1999, Vermont received its first environmental justice grant for mobile home communities that lacked clean drinking water and had sewage backup issues. And from then, there have been a cascading number of movements and efforts, from migrant farm worker movements to New Americans advocating for safety from lead poisoning, to discussions of energy poverty in our more rural communities. That relates to the Clean Heat Standard. And so every environmental bill can now have this lens on it of ensuring that we understand the intersection of pollution, poverty, and power, and that no one in Vermont is left behind.
Thank you so much, Senator Ram Hinsdale. It's so true. And this is such a moment, and we have more work to do, not only to move this bill forward,
yes,
but also to ensure that every other policy and program really centers equity and justice. So this is an important milestone. And Elena, you have been hard at work working with a really broad network of important partners. Tell us, substantively, what the bill does.
Sure. And I mean, I can't not acknowledge that we are standing on the shoulders of many who have labored for years to get this bill in place and where we are today. And we at CLF, we were honored to be able to represent those voices in the committee room and advocate to strengthen this bill and get it to where it is today, which is a really great place. So what it does is, first of all, and probably most importantly, it sets a very clear environmental justice state policy here in Vermont that says no segment of the population based on racial, demographic, or other criteria are can be discriminated against or treated differently in terms of how we distribute environmental benefits and also how environmental harms are distributed throughout Vermont. So it sets that EJ state policy. It also defines the term of who is an environmental justice population in the state and helps us get a handle on which protections and which populations deserve that special assistance and acknowledgement that they've been left out of the conversations to date around decisions of environmental health and well-being. It also sets up two really important bodies. One is an interagency body that is going to be made up of mostly government officials who will help collaborate and coordinate the environmental justice efforts at the state level to help make sure we are actually implementing our environmental justice state policy. The second is an advisory council that is made up mostly of community members and representatives of folks that are living at the margins in Vermont. And that is a council that's going to have the opportunity to help shape the various rules and policies and guidance documents that the state is putting out to help implement this new law. Finally, the bill establishes a really important spending target in talking about how the state is distributing environmental benefits throughout the state. We know that there are certain communities that are receiving a disproportionate number of these benefits based on past access issues and administrative capacity to apply for grants. And so this is a target that forces the state to start taking account of where our dollars are flowing, who is receiving those environmental benefits, and making sure that it is more equal. And I can't say enough about also this one provision that does have the state create an environmental justice mapping tool, which will be a really important resource, not only for the state, but also for community members to have a better sense of the environmental harms and burdens that they face in their own community and sort of see that fleshed out in the form of a spatial mapping tool. We can really start to see who is more burdened in the state. And so I'll wrap up just by saying that this is a really important step forward. It is not a panacea. We have tons more work to do in the environmental justice space, but it does set an initial framework for us to start moving forward. And it is vital that we also get funding appropriated for the state to really properly stand up this bill and support our community members that are going to spend their precious time on the advisory council. So that is something that we are still going to be working on in appropriations on the Senate side. But we're really happy to get to this milestone and see bipartisan support for this bill coming out of the Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee.
Thank you so much, Elena. And as we wrap up, just wanted to give some next steps for all of you listening. It'd be great to reach out to the members of the Senate Natural Resources Committee who worked so hard on this bill and to thank them for their hard work so far. And also reach out to your senator about the importance of passing this bill this session, as well as making sure the bill has the funding that it deserves to fully implement the programs that Elena just laid out. So thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more on the environmental justice bill.